Hello, Kathy Beatty with Divorce Support Anonymous. I want to talk today about the shame of divorce. If you are going through a divorce, you know what this is like. You understand what it is to feel the shame of divorce, whether you're the person that left or you're the person who was left. Shame is a part of this journey of divorce. The question is, what do we do with our shame? How do we deal with the shame of divorce? I want to talk to you about this, and I want to preface it by stating you are incredibly valuable to God, to your community, to your family. And I understand how this emotion in particular can railroad you and consume you because it feels like such a failure. And quite frankly, it is a failure. But that does not mean that you are a failure. I want you to separate this divorce from the value of you, to understand that you are unquestionably valuable and precious to God, to your community, to your family. I understand it doesn't feel that way right now, but I want to assure you that it totally is the truth. So, how do we deal with shame? Part of it is struggling for the reasons the divorce occurred. If you, again, are the one that left, you had to leave for your own reasons. Divorce is a struggle of the spirit for individuals to resolve, not for other people to give expectations for or to cast aspersions on you. This is your struggle alone. You know the reason why you had to leave. You may be baffled if you were left, but that's for a later time to figure out. But to understand the reasons some of us had to leave, or that some of us now look at our relationship and say it was a necessary ending because it could not be fixed, it could not be helped. It needed to be buried because it had been dead for a very long time. And some people realize that after the person has left, and they realize, I never admitted how unhappy and miserable I was, how that relationship was so broken. So as we work through the reasons for the divorce, sometimes it is necessary. And I know the shame can come to many of you because the scriptures say God hates divorce. And this is very true. I'm not denying that scripture. But I believe, as someone I admire, Leslie Vernick, had mentioned as well, that God values you more than the covenant, even more than the covenant of the marriage. There were reasons, but they had to be dealt with. In fact, you might even say divorce is the most honest thing about our marriage because it had been so sick for so long. As you struggle with these things, I hope you can take this struggle to God the Father and lay it before Him and ask Him to help you to deal with the burden of the divorce. Realizing again, you are loved, you are cherished, and you have incredible purpose. Through this divorce, you will learn a lot about yourself, about people, but the reasons are your own struggle. So stop listening to all the words around you. Take yourself quietly before God and struggle with this. Come, let us reason together, God says. So as we continue to struggle for the reasons, we have to also realize that many of us will take on blame that is not ours. And that brings shame. It's important for you to later understand. I don't know where you're at in this process. If you're in the beginning, I don't want you analyzing anything. I want you first to survive. But later, as time goes by, as time passes, there will be a time to look at what were my contributions to the demise of this marriage. But don't take on more than is yours. Don't take on more responsibility for the demise of the marriage than what is really yours. This is going to help you stay sane, and it's also going to help you deal with the shame. The fact is, and we need to look at this factually, the fact is the marriage was beyond repair. The fact is the next logical move was to bury the dead carcass. That means going through the ugly process of divorce. But it's honest. It's honest. For many of you, it's honest. There's no more playing that this marriage is going to work. There's no more hitting your head against a wall trying to make it work by yourself. You can't do it. It takes two people. So as you deal with shame, I want you to, first of all, understand your value. Second of all, I want you to look at the reasons why this marriage has fallen apart. And you may not even know. Your partner may have left and you are clueless right now. That's okay. It's for a later time. And then we want that self-care. When we do get to the point to where we are looking at understanding what happened to the marriage, that we don't take on the blame of the other party, that we look for our own self-growth at what happened to the marriage and why it failed. The marriage failed. You are not a failure. Because we want to learn from that. We want to learn to be more healthy people for our next relationship, if there is to be one, years down the road. We want to be healthy. We want to understand what really happened here. What was my contribution to the failure of the marriage, for us to learn, not to shame ourselves, but to learn. We can learn from this divorce. We can learn, we can grow. We want to redeem some value out of this trauma of divorce. We don't want it to be in vain. It's so painful. So let us learn from the pain. Let us learn about ourselves as we learn, perhaps for the first time, self-compassion. That when we hear those voices of shame, that we say, wait a minute, give myself a break. Let me be compassionate to myself. I did the best I could with the knowledge that I had. I carried all this stuff, all this baggage from my childhood into the marriage. And now I'm going to be honest enough that I look at it honestly, truthfully, begin to heal from it first so that I can move forward as a healthy, healed person. Shame doesn't have any benefits. None. So as you beat yourself up with shame, realize there's nothing good to come out of it. But if we are curious about our past relationship, we are curious about the reasons of what happened so we can grow, then we can take some value out of the very difficult journey and trauma of divorce. Listen for those voices of shame and rebuke them and say, no, I'm going to be compassionate to myself and I'm going to learn something here about myself, about relationships, about God and His grace and mercy and forgiveness for all of my past mistakes.